The codes to dressing well and looking cool change in both dramatic and subtle ways year over year. And that change is expressed via the buying habits, language, and media that we all consume. When we look at 2024 and compare it to 2023 or 2022, we begin to see how dramatically different each year is from the other. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Drew. What to do? It's nice to meet you. Let's talk about 2024 fashion trends. As a disclaimer, I think it's important to highlight that everything that I say in this video is merely an opinion. If my idea about a particular trend differs from yours, attack the idea, not the individual. Additionally, this is meant to be a fun conversation, so let your voice be heard down in the comment section. For the first time in a few years, it feels like there isn't a shoe that's clearly the most trendy within its category. For example, when we're talking about sneakers, I could argue that the Adidas Samba or the Adidas Gazelle is the most trendy in its category. But I think a lot of people also feel like these shoes are becoming or have become basic. And while that may be true, the most trendy style of sneaker in 2024 is the football trainer look or the low profile sneaker look. Whether we're talking about the Miu Miu New Balances that came out in February, or we're talking about the Louis Vuitton rendition that came out for Fall Fashion Week, to me, this is one of the best ongoing trends taking place in 2024. The low profile look also coincides with this idea that we're living within a Y2K resurgence. Puma just re-released several low-profile sneakers from the Speedcat to the Mostro. There are kids in London retrofitting actual football cleats and putting Vibram soles on them. Everywhere I turn, it seems like there are people either wearing, talking about, or interacting with these style of sneakers. What sneakers are you wearing the most in 2024? Or have you decided to ditch sneakers altogether? I can feel that some of you are waiting for me to talk about Timberlands. So let's talk about Timberlands. Technically, Timberlands' 50-year anniversary was in 2023, but I feel like the peak trend that was the Timberland movement was in 2024. And there are a lot of people that I've talked to, mostly like OG New York fashion heads, who think that the Timberland trend is one of the worst trends that have happened in recent years. The reason they think that isn't because they think that Timberlands all of a sudden look bad. It has more to do with the psychology around buying Timbs and wearing Timbs and what it means to be someone who wears Timbs, or what that looks like. Put more plainly, the reason that some of these people think the way that they do is because there was a new generation wearing Timbs, but not truly trying to understand or appreciate the heritage of Timbs. Also, Timbs are kind of a weird code switch in 2024, especially if you live in the US. Like, there is a dude right now, literally right now in New York City, on a job site wearing a pair of Timbs in a non-trendy, a non-fashionable, a completely 100% functional way. So for Timberlands to be having or have had the moment that they've had in 2024, for some people it rubs them in the wrong way. Or not the wrong way, but just in a kind of weird way. I'm not saying I'm one of those people, but I do believe that the rhetoric around trendiness in Timberlands puts people off for whatever reason. And I see that. And it's crazy. We've seen a lot of different pairs of Timbs. There's tabby Timbs that I've seen. There's Louis Vuitton Timbs. There's the glazed donut Timbs. And there are so many others that have come out in the past and in recent years that are garnering more attention than ever because we're in a Timbs trend moment. Totally switching gears when it comes to footwear, another one of the best trends taking place in 2024 have been the mesh or sheer flats. And no, I'm not talking about chicken wings, fellas. I'm talking about ballet flats, flat-footed footwear for women's wear. Ballet flats, kitten heels, tabbies, and other forms of dainty shoes have really only continued to gain popularity in 2024. But one of the more trendy components of these shoes is the implementation of sheer or mesh or see-through uppers for this style of footwear, especially this summer. Women's wear is so interesting to me. That's why I like to talk about it from time to time, and especially in these videos, because the codes to being stylish in women's wear are actually so different from the codes to being stylish in men's wear. And showing off like pedicured feet, through the sheer elements of your shoes, or being able to weave sheer elements within your personal style denotes intentionality and is really, really cool. I'm coining a new phrase, which is anti-sneaker sneaker theory. Stay with me here. And it's basically, well, it's a theory. It's about this idea that the trend on sneakers is that sneakers are actually becoming less relevant when it comes to what we consider to be great personal style. I'm not saying that sneakers are dead. It's more that over the course of the last few years, other types of footwear have begun to eat away at sneakers' market importance. This doesn't mean sneakers aren't still very relevant to a large group of people. And I still feel like from a macro sense, most people are going to wear, enjoy, look at, and compliment sneakers as opposed to complimenting some kind of like Margiela, Rick Owens, high fashion, Louis Vuitton type of style. Because most people aren't in that world. But when reeling it in and talking about sneakers and sneaker culture, there are just too many signs that show that sneakers and sneaker culture have changed. From resale prices dropping dramatically across the board to sneaker content creators who were very easily, in an era where you could review Ultra Boost, for example, able to get 6-figure view counts on Instagram and on YouTube, no longer seeing the same success they had when talking about the same sneakers that they've always talked about. These are just small signs that I see. There are many other channels and media outlets and like macro examinations of sneaker culture. Like for example, Nike stock just hit another like multi-year low that are pointing to all signs saying that sneakers are no longer in the sneaker renaissance that we saw from the mid 2010s up until really 2020. But it's not that simple. I know that. And before I get a bunch of angry sneakerheads commenting in the comments how wrong I am, there's a touch of nuance here that we all have to understand. The avid sneakerhead who like collects sneakers and loves sneakers, he is a much different consumer than the person who is trying to fit in with the people around them, whether it is by understanding trends, by understanding codes to style, by looking good in a job or a workplace. Everyone has different needs for their buying habits, especially when it comes to footwear, especially when it comes to the shoes that they buy. While sneakers had made a lot of progress to acquire more customers who maybe wouldn't have always considered sneakers, the meta for looking cool is shifting away from sneakers being a part of that core inner circle, the inner circle of coolness that exists. I don't know if sneakers are in that inner circle anymore. They're in that like second tertiary circle where things are still cool, but the inner circle is the coolest of the cool. Hopefully that makes sense. Sneakers just aren't driving the ship like they used to. And that's just where we are in 2024 when it comes to sneakers and sneaker culture. Which leads in perfectly to the fact that high calf boots and buckle boots have been so trendy in 2024. This again is in reference to women's wear looks, and this look, guys, take it from me, this look has been popping off here in New York City. The look usually consists of high calf boots, some sort of skirt, and a top. And obviously there's a million and one variations when it comes to this combination. But the boots, the skirt, and then obviously you gotta wear a top to wear clothes is like, it's the meta. It is the bee's knees. It is what's hot. It's what's popping. All the words, it's the aura, all those things. And the fun thing about this trend with what I'm saying is that you can really personalize it in whatever way you want to. If you don't like high calf boots, you can wear kitten heels and stockings. If you don't like kitten heels and stockings, you can add bows or ribbons to the outfit. If you love bags or accessorizing, you can accessorize the heck out of it. You know what I mean? This look is undeniably trendy in 2024, and I think it's one of the best trends to come out of 2024 because it looks fun, it looks effortless, it looks kind of dynamic. It has this level of tension in it when you wear like black boots with like skirts, and it's just really, really cool. I think so. There are two really weird trends taking place that we have to talk about in 2024. The first one being the underwear as shorts trend, or underwear as outerwear. Sometimes it's referred to as that trend. At the beginning of the year, someone had actually predicted that this trend would take off, and I made a video about it, and I was really, really against this style of clothing. I was really against this trend. But, and this is what happens when you put ideas and opinions out on the internet, I had to renege on what I thought about this idea, about this trend. And the way I've seen it styled this summer, I actually really think this really works in a lot of different use cases. It looks really good too. It doesn't even really look like boxers because of the way that the length is cut on these shorts. it just looks more like a patterned pair of like gingham or just patterned pair of shorts or like romper shorts or something like that. They look really, really good. It looks like just flowy, fun, and light, and adds a bit of texture and pop of color to an outfit. Now, don't get it twisted. There are versions of this trend that kind of look off. And that's why I was put off by this trend at the beginning of the year, because those versions were most prevalent. They were kind of like the runway show version of the trend. And runway shows are meant to obviously provide the most dramatic point of view of what fashion should be, right? Not everyone can just wear runway fashion day to day unless they have like extreme confidence. And I think most people work regular jobs, so like you just can't wear runway stuff all the time. To put more language to it, the version that I don't really like is kind of this like hypersexualized or like super tight version of the underwear's outerwear trend. To me, it just comes off as a bit untasteful in my opinion. But hey, everyone's got their thing. Everyone enjoys clothes in a different way. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I end up reneging even on that and I end up being the one who wears something that looks like that. I want to gauge the audience here. How many of you have participated in the underwear as outerwear trend? I feel like it leans to a more younger audience, and I know I have all age groups here, which is beautiful. I love being able to speak to a ton of different people. But yeah, would you ever wear something like this? Have you ever worn something like this? Let me know down in the comments. Next weird trend I want to talk about is the wallet chain trend. Now, you might be asking yourself, Drew, why are you calling wallet chains or the wallet chain trend weird? Well, it comes down to this idea that people aren't actually attaching wallet chains to their wallet. They're purely using wallet chains as an aesthetic function for their outfits, which I find this to be really interesting because wallet chains come from a really functional place, right? Obviously they're fashion as well, but they're super functional. The point of a wallet chain is to prevent someone from stealing or prevent loss of your wallet. And what you have in 2024 is people just using wallet chains, sometimes using multiple wallet chains as visual intrigue for their outfits, which I shouldn't be calling weird because a lot of times fashion is just about doing the thing that looks cooler, right? And that's kind of what I see when it comes to the wallet chain trend. But I thought I'd put it in this category because no one's actually using the wallet chain as a chain for their wallet. They're just using it. They're just clipping it onto like the belt loop in the front and the belt loop in the back. And it's just kind of interesting, right? Wallet chains also feel like a deviation away from the carabiner trend that took place in 2023, especially for menswear. You see it in women's wear as well, but like especially for menswear. And in a lot of ways, this trend almost feels a bit more niche than an overarching trend. It's something that's very subtle. If you're in the menswear space, if you're in the kind of streetwear menswear space, you see it a lot where a lot of kids, boys, men are wearing wallet chains, but they're not connecting to anything. They're just doing it to make the fit feel a little bit more dolled up or more accessorized. There are 5 big moments from my point of view that have shaped the way that I'll look back on 2024 culturally up until this point. And I know because the nature of this video, it comes out in August, there will be things that I miss September, October, November, December, especially because we're in an election year in the US. But this is what we're working with right now. We have the Olympics, the Saltburn film, Drake vs. Kendrick Lamar beef, BRAT, and Tyler the Creator. These are my big 5 best and worst macro trends of the year. Let's start with the Olympics. This was the most fun Olympic Games for me, maybe ever. The buzz around the Olympic opening ceremony outfits it was just so much fun to be a part of a moment where people were caring and talking about these outfits, and social media was really like sinking its teeth deep into all of the lore that came with the opening ceremony outfits. Obviously, we know that Mongolia stole the show. Also, Haiti did a fantastic job. Taiwan, Liberia, South Sudan were all countries who put their nation on notice with the clothes that they decided to decorate their athletes with. To me, one of the most powerful messages about the opening ceremony outfits was the fact that what you wear matters. And it proved it so on such a large stage. How you represent yourself and what clothes you decide to wear and what those clothes make other people feel and all the things that are involved in those decisions, it matters. It really, really matters. And it matters to not only us, if we're talking about the countries that were in the Olympics, but it also matters to us as individuals when we walk around the streets of New York City or we walk around the streets of wherever you're from, wherever you live. It matters. In your opinion, who had the best opening ceremony outfit? Next, we have the Saltburn moment. The movie technically came out in 2023, but the song Murder on the Dance Floor is still trending audio for a lot of social media in 2024. If you think you're getting away, I will prove you wrong. Oh boy. Both Jacob Elordi and Barry, the main actors in the film, were being referenced for their style and mannerisms because of the film, which also manifested itself into some really interesting TikToks being made because of the whole energy of the film. From the Saltburn bathwater cocktail moment to the showcasing of just opulent wealth using Murder on the Dance Floor as audio aid, Saltburn's influence on 2024 culture is undeniable. 2024 also gave us one of the most iconic rap and hip-hop moments of all time. Most people agree that Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and J. Cole are this generation's most noteworthy rappers or rap artists, or some people are calling Drake a pop artist, so pop artist, whatever. They're the most noteworthy artists that are a part of rap and hip hop. When Drake and J. Cole teamed up on a few verses on a few songs on Drake's latest album, For All the Dogs, it set off one of the most iconic beefs of all time. Those chain of events basically led to Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick Lamar all beefing with each other on the biggest stage, the biggest rappers with the biggest budget, going at it, competing against each other. As a fan of all three artists, I don't think in my adult life I had ever been more excited for music to come out when each of these artists were dropping music in rebuttal to the other, the accusations, the attacks. It was a very, very like big moment. Not in like necessarily the most positive way, honestly, but it was just interesting to see people who write songs and create lyrics to try to move people. These are the best ones that do it, and for them to kind of go at each other with that skill set was very, very cool. It's tough to say how this beef impacted the fashion world, but I think the visuals from Not Like Us, Kendrick Lamar's music video, actually had some real world implications within the fashion world. It highlighted a lot of California-based artists and creatives, and that's one thing that Drake actually criticized Kendrick on, is that, you don't go home and plant no money trees kind of thing, where, Kendrick actually said, no, yeah, I do. I go home, I represent the people, and I try to support the people that have helped and supported me, and I put new people on. So if anything, I think what the beef did for 2024 is it recontextualized what is real, what is fake, what is cool, and that conversation is always ongoing. And music in the music industry is one of those industries that really influences that, like, what is cool, who is cool, the celebrities that are cool, the artists that are cool, the clothes that they're wearing, all these things. So another large moment taking place right now is Charli XCX's BRAT Summer. In Charli's words, BRAT is, you're that girl who is a bit messy and loves to party and maybe says dumb things sometimes. She's honest, blunt, and a little bit volatile. That's BRAT. BRAT feels like the spirit of summer 2024. You have the lime green color pop for summer. You have the more grungy, graphic-based Y2K aesthetic for the summer. And of course, you have the political implications here in the US of Charli XCX calling Kamala Harris BRAT. Last but certainly not least, I think that Tyler the Creator is filling a Kanye West size hole right now for what Kanye was to the culture, into fashion, into footwear, and all the things before all the drama. Okay, what do I mean by that? And without getting too deep on this, ever since Kanye and Adidas split, ever since Kanye and Kim split, I felt like Kanye's stock has been going down. And on the other hand, I feel like Tyler the Creator's stock is just steadily going up and up and up and up. From the projects he's worked on musically, to the clothing he's worked on creatively, to the collaborations he's a part of. It just feels like there's a bit of a passing of the torch for the more eclectic, more outspoken, more interesting creative who is driving culture in a really interesting way. And to speak specifically about this, earlier this year, Tyler the Creator helped design a Louis Vuitton collection, which made waves. It was just announced that Tyler the Creator was collaborating with Supreme, and now everyone's saying that Supreme is back because of all the energy that Tyler's bringing. So there's just a lot of examples that kind of prove this. And I've always just, we've seen in the past where, you have Virgil Abloh, you have Kanye West, you have these black creatives, at least that resonate with me, these black creatives who are doing things that are aspirational for not only, blacks in the US, but just all over the world. People are inspired by these individuals. So I don't know, I when I try to compare like a Kanye West or a Virgil Abloh or a Tyler the Creator or a Pharrell Williams, there are characteristics that make them similar, and I think that their race has something to do with it, but it's not the entire thing. That's why I brought up race. I'm not trying to race bait. Just that's why I brought up race. To kind of put a bow or a button on this thought, I just think everything that Tyler has done in 2024 and in 2023 and 2022 has improved his stock, and it's cool to see that as he continues to grow his influence. He's only 32 years old, 33 years old. As he gets older, it'll only continue to grow. I think it'll just continue to mature, and then things will continue to expand for him, and his influence will continue to kind of just expand. All right, let's do some rapid fire trend talk. Starting with bag charms, these have been everywhere in 2024. I saw them while I was even in Japan. Bubble skirts. Bubble skirts have been the skirt of the summer, another trend that has popped off in 2024. Grills and teeth jewelry. This kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that Y2K is so popular right now. Grills are a byproduct of that popularity, and it's really, really fun. Using red as a pop of color. Using red as a pop of color is something that's trended since fall 2023, and it showed no signs of slowing down in 2024. Especially when we're talking about red shoes or red bags for women's wear. What are some other niche trends that you see that are taking place in 2024? I almost forgot to mention jorts, actually. Jorts are another trend that kind of is a multi-year trend, but I would say that the trend that's kind of deviated or branched off from jorts are these sort of pleated or dress jort shorts, if that makes sense. They're kind of like pleated dress shorts, but they're wide like a pair of jorts. These shorts have been really, really popular. I've seen them styled, and I even want a pair of them because they look really, really good. It's almost like you took like a really wide fitting pair of pleated trousers that are cotton or wool or something, and you just cut them, and then you do the hem, and then boom, you have a really cool pair of like pleated shorts. Let's get a word in for today's sponsor, Squarespace. Are you interested in making your very own website for a brand or creative project? Squarespace offers a comprehensive amount of features to help you create the website that you've always wanted. If you want to sell your products direct to consumer, or if you want to showcase your body of work, Squarespace makes it easy to do that and more. Currently, I'm using my Squarespace website as a hub for all of my content and as a way to direct those interested to my podcast and social media. If you need a design to help nudge you into creating your first website, this is your sign. Visit squarespace.com/DrewJoyner for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Speaking of streetwear, what happened to streetwear? 2024 feels like the year where we can finally have the conversation around how streetwear is changing. And one of the ways that I'm hearing streetwear being recategorized is with this term that is being coined as formal streetwear. And the modern context of streetwear is so different from what I at least thought streetwear was. And I think a lot of people thought streetwear was 10 years ago. Formal streetwear is the trend where instead of sneakers, people are wearing and opting to wear loafers. Instead of basketball jerseys, it's soccer kit jerseys. Basically, collared shirts, more elegance, and whatever Aimé Leon Dore is doing, because they seem to have headlined this idea of formal streetwear. I also feel like a stronger UK or British influence is taking hold of streetwear. In previous years, it was called blokecore, but now it just feels like London youth culture, and the London youth culture aesthetic is becoming the aesthetic for what we call streetwear online. Now, there's a lot of nuance in that statement because that is one side of the coin of streetwear, this kind of formal streetwear. On the other side of the coin, I still think that kind of this hip hop, this Atlantic centric, this more inner city look is more streetwear. But I just think that it's interesting how like both of these worlds are existing at the same time, but they're both called streetwear, but they look totally different. Maybe I should make a longer form video on what's happening with streetwear, because I do think that it deserves more than me just saying it's a trend taking place that streetwear is changing, which it is a trend that streetwear is changing, but we need to get deep into why and how that's taking place. If this video is going to serve as an accurate recount kind of a capsule of what happened in 2024, we can't go any further in this video without talking about running, run clubs, and running gear. Run clubs have been a thing for years, but for whatever reason, TikTok, social media got a hold of run clubs in 2024 and ran with it and took it to new heights. Pun intended. All the running puns are coming out right now. Without getting too macro, the fashion POV of run clubs and running is the running gear. And I think a lot of brands, whether it being footwear companies like New Balance, Saucony, or On Cloud, put more emphasis on this segment of their catalog in 2024 because that's what was trending. That's where the interest, that's where the activity was in the market segment. I even personally got more into running. I've run more miles in 2024 than I've ever run in my entire life. I know people who've ran or run their first mile period ever in 2024 because of social media and because of this kind of runner culture. I know there are accounts that are completely dedicated to running. There's been an explosion of content around running. And I think a part of the reason why run clubs have become popular to begin with is because there's this idea that you can go to a run club. Usually I see like California or Hawaii, and there's just a whole bunch of shirtless men or like attractive women, and you can find your mate or your partner without having to go through the awkwardness of dating apps. You can actually do it in person and do something that's a bit more healthy for your life. That's the crux around run clubs. It's just kind of grown and ballooned to this really interesting level where people are now kind of like cynical about run clubs. They're calling them like cults and things like that. But like 2024, definitely the year of the run club, definitely the year of the running shoe. And man, running is cool again in a totally different kind of way than what I expected it to be. I'd mentioned On Cloud when referring to brands who I think are doing a good job of taking advantage of kind of running culture. Another one is Hoka. Hoka is doing a fantastic job as well. But On Cloud subtly had one of the best years of any brand in 2024. They were able to get Zendaya as a brand ambassador, an actress who is arguably in her prime and in her moment as well. They've had very, very interesting fashion forward collaborations. Think their collab with Post Archive Faction, which was really, really good. And as running continues to grow in popularity, they are in the perfect position to capitalize on people who are interested, who have taken interest in running and running gear. I have a bold prediction. I think in the next 2 to 3 years, On Cloud will be the brand that's responsible for creating the next generations or the next kind of most interesting sneaker or item of footwear. I just feel like On Cloud is going to do something where, you know, like in 2021, 2022, and even still right now, like New Balance is having a moment, Adidas is having a moment. These companies are massive companies. I just feel like at some point in the future, On Cloud will have one of these moments where they're just the brand. They are the brand. And maybe they're having it right now and it'll never go higher, but I think it'll go higher than this. One of my favorite things about 2024 fashion is that there has been a true rise in personal style. I used to feel like that you had to wear certain clothes or certain brands to be considered fashionable, but that is no longer the case in 2024. If you like vintage military clothing, you can look good. If you like coquette and dressing more girly, you can make that work. If you like bows and ribbons, you can make that work. The explosion of personal style being displayed both online and in real life with such a wide range of what is cool has been wonderful to see. And all the different core trends that are taking place, from eclectic grandpa to mob wife aesthetic to office siren, feel like a different version of the same thing. And I think that's important to note because it's the reason why that you just don't have as many fashion cores as you did 2022, 2023, where everything felt like a TikTok core, right? Norm core or dark academia or whatever, gorp core, whatever the core was. You don't really have that same thing taking place anymore because personal style is the meta. It's impossible to call a trend if only one person or one individual is doing it. And you're seeing a lot more just one-off, personalized. No one's really trying to copy this person because they know that they can't. It's not in them. But it's still beautiful to see that individuality reflected in such a unique and charismatic way when done tastefully. I mentioned Office Siren and I've mentioned the trend in other videos, and I feel like it would be wrong not to talk about it in this video. The office siren trend is essentially an aesthetic that derives from 2000s office attire, but done in a more modern, girl boss type of way. I love the eyewear from the office siren trend. It feels like the eyewear might be the most popular component of the trend because it's easiest to implement within a day-to-day look. Bayonetta frames or librarian frames are the terms used to describe the eyewear that derives from the office siren look. Kind of like a weird deviation from like bayonetta frames and librarian frames. You also have kind of like big framed eyewear from like 70s and 80s style that is really popular right now that looks really good because people are like recontextualizing it for a contemporary look. And I learned that these larger frames are actually better for progressive lenses. They help you see better if you have a progressive lens. So there's also a bit of functionality too. And it's cool to see like eyewear shifting just like everything else shifts in fashion. Let's do one last rapid fire, starting off with aura. Aura is a term that I believe was popularized by the internet when the Boston Celtics won the NBA championship. And the term was coined because people could not stop making fun of Jason Tatum. Basically, people were saying that Jason Tatum had lost his aura or he lost aura, and eventually the term caught on, and now it's used kind of synonymously with coolness or swag, or it just means basically the same thing as like having drip or having swag or being cool. There was also a Western moment that happened in 2024, and I think it happened for two reasons. The first reason being Pharrell Williams and the fall winter collection that he unveiled for Louis Vuitton, and the fact that Beyonce also kind of went country on us for a little bit there and still is going country. Bras being worn as tops or on top of clothing. This sort of plays into the idea of undergarments being worn as outer garments, and I think that while this is pretty niche, it's still kind of something that I'm seeing a lot more of, and as a result, it's kind of like one of those things where, is this cool? Is this weird? Or is it a mix of both? And that's what makes it cool. Before we get into our final trend, let me give you some honorable mentions from my list that couldn't talk more about. The Adidas Samba and Gazelle 3-sole sneakers, especially this summer, I saw these a ton. Mesh jerseys, saw these a ton. Flower earrings, kind of like taking a flower and creating an earring out of it. These were super trendy on social media. Never saw them in real life though. Caterpillar stashes, or kind of like for menswear, for men, like a lot of men have been have been doing like the line stash kind of thing for like their mustache facial hair look. Exaggerated belts, so like kind of like this Paloma wool look where people are wearing big belts. A lot of times women's wearing big belts and layering underneath it and kind of letting it sit a bit low-waisted or high-waisted. And last, the super decorated nail trend. I can't believe I haven't talked about this sooner. Fingernail designs, acrylic designs, super popular right now, super trendy in 2024. I appreciate you for sticking to the end of this video with me. The last trend I want to talk about is the maximalist accessory trend. It feels like in 2024, accessories mean more and more to what is considered to be stylish. I know I mentioned that personal style is flourishing, which it is. My counter argument to that statement would be that the more accessories you have on, the better it looks, at least in the context of 2024 fashion. Accessories as in necklaces, earrings, tattoos, hair, nails, bags, bag charms, bags on bag charms. Anything that can be made to look 2% or 5% or 10% better within an outfit is being done. It is the main component of the zeitgeist for 2024 fashion, especially for what I'm seeing here in New York City. It's been kind of something that's influenced my style more and more. I just see so many interesting schemes of outfits that I would have never thought about, accessories that I've never seen, harnesses and belts and weird and cool and amazing hats and just so many different things that are pushing the boundary for what can be done within an outfit, but only doing so within the context of what we already understand as outfits, especially in the lane of the accessory. What did I miss? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity in 2024. So that means I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity to you and more. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful rest of your day. A bientôt. Peace. Yo, what is up, PVV? Hopefully you're having a good day today. Here's a fist bump. Bop. I want to ask you a question just super quick. Do you feel like fashion trends have slowed down at all in 2024, or are we still in a super fast, super quick pace when it comes to fashion trends? Let me know down in the comments, hashtag PVV, so I know that you made it to the very end of the video and you're a true supporter. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week or next time I see you. Peace.